Quick heads up, before I start the video, I just want to let you guys know right now I'm holding a giveaway. Starting at 500 subscribers, for every 100 subscribers, I'll be giving away $10 or less worth of Gwent Vanities to a random winner. So that means it's at least one board or 1 leader skin or 2 faction packs. For you to participate, you only need to become a public subscriber, which you can do by smashing that subscribe button, and if you haven't already, you need to unprivate your subscription list so that I know you are one of my subscribers. And the next step is, you need to comment on my videos about anything. If you give feedback or any video ideas, and the more you comment on my videos, you'll be getting bonus points. That means slightly increased odds at winning the giveaway. The giveaway lasts from 12th of July until the 17th of August 2022, and the giveaway event will end regardless whether we hit 1k subscribers or not. So you'd better tell your friends to subscribe or the event will be over before you know it. That's it for the info, let's move on with the video. Alright, how's it going guys? Deekadiko is here and I am back. Today we're going to discuss a little bit of the top tier deck that I think is the best deck to use to climb right now. So yeah, this is going to be a quick overview of what I think are the best decks to use to climb right now for every faction. So yeah, without further ado, I think let's just start with the first faction. I think Skellige. So yeah, Skellige, I think even right now with the addition of Renfrey and Compass, I think the best Skellige deck to use to climb right now is still Self-Wound Skellige. Self-Wound Skellige is just really good. So far none like other Skellige decks came close to like matching its value, but you know, Self-Wound is just incredibly amazing at everything. It's really good in a short round situation, it's really good in a long round situation, it's really good in a bleeding situation, it's really good to use the bleed, it's really good at defending the bleed, it's really good in winning round 1, it's really good at going to a long round 3. Everything about this deck is just extremely this deck does extremely well. So the reason why I'm not putting the new, I guess, Renfrey Skellige with Onslaught here, that deck has a lot more control, but with Knut, Defender, and Melusin and Siegfried target, I think this deck also has a really good control. Not to mention the ceiling on this deck is basically infinite, provided you drew well. So yeah, and you know, with a lot of Renfrey deck going on in ladder right now, you don't necessarily gonna see any heatwave target. You won't see any heat waves on ladder most of the time. So setting up carryover with Melusin or going to a just using Siegfried rest is very, it becomes a lot easier because there's no heat wave. So yeah, although you should still keep in mind that there's of course still some Squirrel or Savior Laments, but since they don't have heat wave anymore, most of the decks doesn't run heat wave anymore. Something like Melusin and Siegfried and Knut just becomes extremely scary today's meta. So yeah, I think it's very standard. Urson Ritual Self-Wound is still, I think, the best deck to use, the most consistent deck to use to climb right now. It's just, you know, being Self-Wound, it actually wants to get damaged by opponent. Most of its cards most of its cards get value when you damage them. So removal, if you don't straight up kill the unit, they're just gonna gain more value. Something like Tursach Veteran, Armor Drakkar, and Knut. And you know, this deck runs a lot of alchemy cards that could be used to purify a lock, and we're running Grimace as well to purify poison, doom status, lock. Yeah, this deck is just overall still pretty solid. And yeah, just a quick overview of what I think is the best deck, and let's quickly move on to the next one. So the next faction, I guess it should be, let's try Nilfgaard. Okay, so with Nilfgaard, I think obviously right now the best Nilfgaard deck is straight up Renfrey double cross with the Disloyal package, Simulate package with Terra Nova and a Seer. So playing a Seer, you could actually play Renfrey twice, and you could also play Renfrey with Terra Nova, provided your opponent plays Renfrey, and then you give spying tags to them. Oh, pardon me. I should put in the Mace Torter here. 1 Alba Armored Cavalry. Mangonel into this. I didn't put in the spy giving unit, so I'm sorry. Okay, so this should be the list. Yeah, I'm running Ramen here. I think Ramen combined with something like Alba Armored Cavalry giving you more locks is doing this deck a great favor, because essentially this is a mid-range deck that, you know, the only points that it's gonna have is from Renfrey. So we're running something like a really huge value card like Ivar, and then most of the time we're just gonna lock opponents' units, and then, you know, finish off with Renfrey value. And that should be, you know, a lot of points from Renfrey, especially if you manage to get the what is this, Curse of Envy. Curse of Envy in the long run is just really scary. You know, most of the time this is a game changer. You basically get something like 40 points of value, 40 point something. It's insane. It's really insane. Curse of Envy. Not to mention you could just play this in round 1. And if you're up against another Renfrey deck, you could use your double cross reader to, you know, use your leader to change it to another Renfrey, which is, you know, it's just a lot of Renfrey basically. Of course, you could also sear your Renfrey back to your deck. Really good. So yeah, I'm not running any Roach or Knickers. I think we don't really need extra thinning in this deck. Just playing simply 2 Blightmakers is already good enough, I think. Of course, if you don't really like Ramon, you could also put in something like Knickers, something like Roach. And I simply don't like them because in a round 1 situation where you cannot really win the round, those cards becomes a wasted provision, and I really don't like it. Yeah, that's it for the Assimilate Renfrey deck. I guess you could call this like double Renfrey, triple Renfrey even. Let's move on to the next nilfgaard deck that I think is really good to use to climb, and it's a cultist deck. Yeah, okay guys, I think cultist deck is really, it's not a meme deck. It's a solid deck, a solid archetype that I think is, no one has really figured out how to play it yet. How to play it, the, you know, the most optimal way to play it. No one has really figured that out yet. And in due time, I think people will recognize this potential and they will spam this card a lot. And before that happens, I'm just gonna tell you guys that this card is really good. The Eternal Eclipse, it basically infuses your other cultist and then it gives them like more engine values, which is, I think it's really insane. When you really think about it, even with only like 1 cultist, this you know, in a long run situation, you're gonna multiply the boost on your Eternal Eclipse Initiate, and it's really good. Not to mention, combined with the Eternal Eclipse Decon, you can infuse the cards in your hand so that, you know, you're getting more value out of your chapter 1 that infused all your disloyal cultists, because it also infused the cultist on your hand. So yeah, this cultist package I think has a really like a lot of potential. People just hasn't figured out the most optimal way to play it, and the deck that I just think was really good with cultist is actually like Nilfgaard status archetype with like Philippa von Morlham and Amir, Terra Nova, Usurper, Breathens, like all cards that gives some status to enemy units. We're running like what's this, Von Morlham Servant is really good. So yeah, the idea with running a Lockdown and Amir with Philippa von Morlham is that if we're up against a Renfrey deck, right, they're gonna be forced to use their Renfrey before we use our leader, and that's really good. So if we go to a round 3 and they're playing a Renfrey deck, you know, we can just use Lockdown and lock their Renfrey, and that way we're gonna have a, you know, similar footing. And if, you know, their Renfrey is somewhat like damage ability, offensive ability, we could, you know, disable that, and then most of our engines will live. So yeah, we're only running 2 vampires here to get the zeal from Philippa von Morlham, but I think that should be enough. I really want to run my Scared Ball here, but we don't really have the provision, so I instead opt to run for Terra Nova. Yeah, pretty straightforward list. It's a cultist list, simulate status type with a lot of engines, so they have to answer like these kinds of engines, and they cannot really answer the eternal cultist engine. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Let's move on to the next faction. Okay, I think it's fine to take a look now at the Northern Realms. I think Northern Realms has been really struggling with the meta so far. It's the deck is struggling to have any control. It's, you know, the greediest NR deck is not really the greediest of all decks right now, of all the decks that he could play right now. So it really falls off in a, if you don't run any control and you go for the greedier line. And being NR being NR, they don't really have any control. So I opt to run for this. I think this NR deck is the best to climb all season, provided that it doesn't really, you know, it's not really the best deck, but I think this is like the best NR deck right now. Of course, you could also run Siege. Siege is also really good. Still really good right now, but I'm not entirely sure about Siege. One of the things is I think it's very bleedable. Even in the showdown situation, I don't think that King Hansult is still a good, like King Hansult with Faultless Pride is a good play anymore, or King Hansult with Siege Crew, Siege Tower, Siege Ladder. Siege Tower is not really a good play anymore, simply because now people know how to play around it. So yeah, with something like Faultless Pride, if you don't have anything to target, you're just gonna lose value on your King Hansult. It's really like, it looks like a control deck, but it's really not, because with all the damage that comes from its scenario and its engines, you don't really have a lot of points. That's really the problem with Siege. I think Siege does not really have a lot of points. Most of the points that you can generate from a Siege deck is probably like 30 to 40 points in a round, and the rest of the points are just pure damage, right? It's either damage or the value engine, like the body value. And I think Siege decks really, it doesn't have enough control to justify the amount of points that it lacks, right? Yeah, it just doesn't have enough points anymore, I don't think. And running the Knight package, I think it's better for NR to climb right now. So we're running the standard list with Damsel in Distress. We're not running Amphibious Assault. Amphibious Assault has been nerfed quite a lot of times now, and right now it's essentially becomes not really a, you know, an auto include in your deck anymore. It's 14 provision. It's really expensive for what it does. It's an echo card still, but if you don't draw this card, it feels really terrible. So yeah, 14 provision, I don't really like it. It's more expensive than Oniromancy, which is crazy. But yeah, we're just running Damsel in Distress and Oniromancy to guarantee the Damsel in Distress. I've seen some people run the Golden Necker variant. It could be better than this. Honestly, I think it's like the same. The 8 points carryover value from Sierra Nova, it's not really that much anymore. Sure, it helps bleeding the opponent in round 2 or trying to 2-0, but it really doesn't feel that much. You would rather put like a really impactful card in your deck, such as Ornate Sensor or Unsafe, rather than running a Golden Necker deck, I think. We're running Shield Wall here, reason being we're playing Unsafe and Saltkirk, and it also synergizes with the Knight Errant. So if we manage to get the Knight Errant on board, we have the Damn Sorceress ready, and we could just utilize the Shield Wall ability to the units that get infused by Knight Errant. So that's also a line of play. Yeah, this deck is very straightforward. We're running Ornate Sensor here. Ornate Sensor, I think, is just really good in an R. You could use it as a removal, but the main thing here is the synergy between Maiden Shield and Ornate Sensor, right? Maiden Shield, you get boost, and it spawn Brown on the Bulb. You infuse a unit, and then you simply, you know, for example, you play Saltkirk, you boost the Saltkirk since you have Defender. Opponent doesn't really have any way to interact with Saltkirk. You infuse the Saltkirk with Braun Wonderbolt's ability. You duel the unit. The dual unit died. It's like 20 points unit, and then you used Ornate Sensor on the Saltkirk that got infused, and then it's 40 points of boost, right? It's really, really good. Really like Ornate Sensor with Braun Wonderbolt play. You know, yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I've seen some people run the Sabrina with damage and then Ornate Sensor. Like, it's kind of good, really good against Swarm decks, but this is the version that I'm currently most comfortable in, that I think is the best version to climb the ladder. And yeah, let's move on to Syndicate. Okay, so for Syndicate, of course, I think this is by far the best Syndicate list this season. It's simply a Golden Necker deck, pretty straightforward. Golden Necker self-poison deck. So we're running Salamander Hideout. It's basically Salamander deck. You can look at the bronze and you have Stolen Mutagen, Say Defender, Failed Experiment, Mutant, and Alzers with Morale, Golden Necker, Nova. Yeah, I think this is simply the best deck. Mostly because it has really good control with Poison Package and really like high ceiling, like high point ceiling with something like Geralt the Blindheim or the Salamander Hideout. We could also have a lot of carryover with Summoning Circle and Nova, not to mention Sausage Maker. You could change the Sausage Maker to something else, but this is the first thing that I'm most comfortable in. We're running off the books with Shade Defender here to assist us in the tribute, also to assist us in Azar and Morils, not to mention off the books could give us the golds we need, the coins we need to get the tribute on the Shade Defender, which is, you know, it helps. It's 8 coins, overall really nice. So even if you don't manage to two opponents with the stack, like going to a long round, we're not really scared because we have Poison Package that could just punish opponents' whole units. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Going to a long round, round 3, we might still have some carryovers from the Sausage Maker or the Summoning Circle and Nova. So yeah, we're not really scared of going to a long run because of the Poison Package, and in the short round we have a great point slam with Golden Necker, Nova, and the Salamander package, Salamander Archetype. So yeah, not to mention, even if we're going to a long run, there's the Wretch Addict, getting boost by 2 every turn for 4 provision. Very insane value. Not to mention Mutant as well. This is basically like 3 points a turn for provision. Like, this deck has a tons of points and a myriad of control on the deck, which is really good. Yeah, I think that's about it for Syndicate. I think it's the superior version from the Hidden Cache deck. I like off the books more, mainly because it allows you to have more, like, this is more flexible because you have 8 coins that you can use anytime you want, whereas with Hidden Cache you can only cash in the 3 coins once every round. But there's also like downside and upsides, right? You could use Redanian Ship if you're running Hidden Cache. You could use some Horde engines such as Sol, which, you know, it's not bad, but overall I really like the off the books more. Okay, so moving on to Scoiatael. So undoubtedly with Scoiatael, undoubtedly the best Scoiatael deck of the season is of course Hand Buff Renfrey. I think this is undisputed. Even like after like the whole meta, this is the first deck that everyone figured was gonna be good because of the developer stream, and yeah, it's just been really good. I don't think it's, you know, this deck has a really high win rate right now on ladder. A bunch of good players are using this deck to climb. It's been proven to be really good. I mean, this is my version of the deck. We're running Sasanthesis and Ache of the Nell. You could change the Sasanthesis to Geralt of Rivia or Igni or even Erden, and change the Ache to something 6 provision, something like, I don't know, it's basically the same list. So the key cards in this decks are Renfrey, the Moonrose, Zoltan Package, Three Butterfly, Southern Skags, Torque, Dunka, and Dora Grey for the lock, right? Yeah, this deck is pretty straightforward, has the tons of value with the Farseer boost. It could also caught the opponent off guard because they don't know which units are gonna be boosted by Farseer in round 1, which, you know, makes them think that we're not gonna have, like, we're down by like 20 points and then suddenly we play Renfri's gang that's worth like 25 points, and then we're just good. We're just gonna be able to bleed the opponent, right? So yeah, I think this deck is extremely good. Has like a lot of points, a lot of control with the Zoltan Warrior and Monroe boys, a lot of ping damage, and yeah, this deck is extremely versatile. You could try and win round 1, get that Renfrew leader value out like fairly early to get the cooldown 7 value, or you could use Renfrey in round 2 to defend the bleed. This deck has the tons of play to make. Overall very flexible. Even against something like Keltalus, you could just simply outvalue them. And yeah, this is my version with Ake and the synthesis. I'm not really running Roach or Knickers. I think, as I've said before, I'm not really a fan of Roach and Knickers unless it's in a Syrian Nova deck. Simply because when you don't win the round in round 1, wasting 9 provision and 7 provision feels extremely bad. And yeah, I'd rather just have more golds in my hand than wasting 9 provision or 7 provisions, which is, you know, very understandable. But yeah, I like the synthesis and I like Ake of the Nil, so I'm just running them. And even with this like 2 very unorthodox card, I'm seeing wins on my games. It's just really that good. It has tons of points, tons of value. I highly recommend this deck to anyone who's climbing the ladder right now, who's trying to climb the ladder. Running Donka as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. It's very straightforward. I'm not running the enchanted armor. I chose to run tactile advantage. It's, you know, it's straightforward 5 points. You could use Donka, protect your engine, get rid of Bloodthirst, etc, etc. So yeah, moving on to the second scoiatael deck that I think is still really strong. Is the hybrid with Simlos and Vanities deck. So the hybrid of Waylays and the Zoltan Warrior deck, I think still is very strong to this day, mainly because this deck doesn't run Renfrey. It allows the deck to run something like Heatwave, which could, you know, basically essentially hard punish opponents' like line of combo. So for example, if they're playing like something like Cats, Sir Scratch a Lot, triple cat deck, you could just Heatwave 1, you could destroy the doomed one with your leader ability, you know, everything. Like this deck has a tons of control. We're running Sieran, we're running Cat Witcher. Like even when, you know, we kind of like we try to bleed opponents in round 2, we could just go all in and essentially spend our Simlos and Zoltan Monroe combo in round 2 and then just simply 2 our opponents that way. Not to mention we have the ability to run Hengate Sword also. So Hengate Sword is actually, I think, a really good card, simply because you're able to store a unit in it. Like you're able to store a unit in Hengate Sword, which, you know, it very similar mechanic to Banish, where it doesn't go to opponent's graveyard, so, you know, they cannot resurrect the card and the card becomes ours. Yeah, so we could store like opponent's key cards, maybe Keltalus, maybe the Beast, maybe Witch's Apprentice, maybe Sir Scratch a Lot, maybe even Koshi. Like really good card because we have the damage as well from our leader ability to, you know, essentially set the damage, and then we could just capture the unit, which is really insane. So yeah, we're running the Vanities with Alyssa. I think Alyssa is straightforward. I've seen some version that doesn't run Alyssa. At first I thought that, you know, not running Alyssa was the correct option, but I think being able to play your Waylays in round 1 is, I think, very necessary, because most of the time if you don't play your Waylay, you're forced to give up the round, and opponent is gonna bleed you with your Simlos in hand, which is fine because you're thinning the deck. But I really like just simply playing Alyssa here. It makes our play more versatile. So yeah, overall a very standard list. Pellar, one Squirrel, Heatwave Milva, and Hingate Sword. Okay, pretty straightforward list, pretty standard. Let's move on to the next faction. So the next faction should be, the last faction is gonna be Monster. So believe it or not, I think scoiatael is not a very good deck to climb, although it is a very good deck to climb at the end of the season. I'll talk about the reasoning here. So the reasoning why there's like triple cat deck is a good deck to climb at the end of the season, but not right now, is because most people are, the faster your match is, the better it is to climb, right? It's just math. So if you can win a match in like 5 minutes, if you know whether you're gonna win a match or lose in just like 3 moves, right? It becomes extremely, like, time is the most valuable resource when you're in a lot, like last days of the season. So running a deck that is very binary, like triple cat deck, is actually really good, because when opponent answers your cat, you know you're gonna lose the match anyway, so you can just immediately forfeit and go to the next match. Whereas right now, when you still have a lot of time to play, I think running a binary deck is a little bit stupid. It's very a very idiotic move to use. Like, unless you're getting enjoyment out of playing a binary deck, I highly don't recommend you to play it on ladder if you're trying to climb. It's just really not good to climb. So yeah, I think the best monster deck right now is just straightforward Renfri with Koshi and some, relic package here with Wispus, Brewis, Whiffus, the Crone Sisters. The deck actually runs 2 Endrega Larva. So Endrega Larva kind of like really good with scoiatael here. Scoiatael just mainly carrying the tribe archetype now, and we're not really, since we're playing Renfri, we can't really afford to run something like Renew or Witch's Sabbath, which is fine because scoiatael is not our main combo. It is a combo of ours, but we still have a lot of cards, a lot of other cards that gives value out of their stuff. Like, we're not focusing on scoiatael. So when our scoiatael combo got denied, we're still fine because we still have other cards to play that generates a value, like a lot of value. So we're running one Igni here. I think Igni, like, you could cut Igni for something else. I still believe that running at least one Toll Punish option is the best way to, like, the best option for any deck. Like, you need at least one Toll Punish, otherwise you're just gonna get outgreed and then you're just gonna lose the match. Like, at least one Toll Punish. I think Igni is the best deck here, since we're not really running any other interaction. Like, the only interaction we have on opponent's board is actually only Geralt Igni, the Regray, and what is this, Wispus. So yeah, we don't really have that much interaction aside from those, and we're running one Drowner as well. So we could attack against Cautelus, Drowner, move the Cautelus, or we can adjust the units to line up with Geralt Igni, right, to get the Geralt Igni value. Yeah, deck is very straightforward. Most of the time you really want to just bleed opponents in round 2, or if you're confident in your opponent not having any punish whatsoever to your Koshi or scoiatael, you could just go to a long round and beat them value-wise very easily. I mean, still most of the time you always want to bleed your opponent in round 2 with something like Koshi scoiatael, like basically playing all of your value card and having only Renfri leader ability as your carryover. I think it's also a solid play. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the faction, for the best decks that I think are really good at climbing this season for every faction. So to recap all that, Monster is just a Renfri deck, just a Renfri Koshi deck. Basically, with scoiatael, there's hand buff Renfri, which is really good right now. Also the scoiatael hybrid with Simlas, Alyssa, Munro, and Zoltan. And for Syndicate, it's self-poison list with Golden Necker is really good. With Northern Realms, there's the Knight archetype with Ornate Sensor as control, and Damsel in Distress, the scenario. And for Nilfgaard, it's a double Renfrey deck, a double Renfrey Assimilate deck, or maybe triple Renfrey, and a Cultist deck. I think Cultist, it has some potential. No one has really figured out the best way to play Cultist yet, but I think this is also one of the best decks to climb this season. And lastly, of course, the Self-Wound skellige. Like, the Onslaught skellige does not even come even close to the Self-Wound archetype. Like, I think Self-Wound archetype is still very, very good. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the best decks to climb this season. If you enjoyed the video, thumbs up, subscribe, and let me know what you think down in the comment section below. What do you think are the best, decks to climb this season? I really want to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.